What is up, everyone? Humble Farmer Taiki here, and today I wanted to go over this concept of the mid-curve airdrop fallacy. So if you like the content, please like and subscribe and check out the premium Discord. Link will be in the description below. Prices will be going up tomorrow, so make sure to sign up now to lock in the lower rate. So let's get started. So this is a bell curve meme, right? And we all, if you're in crypto, you must be aware of the mid curve, right? Here's me in the mid curve. I represent 68% of the population, and I'm always struggling. And the left curvers, right? The 50 IQ people, right? They just ape into random stuff and they catch like 10, 20 X's. And then the right curve, right? The 150 IQ, they're just smart, and they're like outperforming all of us. The idea is that if you're in the mid curve, you underperform. If you're in the left curve or the right curve, you just outperform significantly. And I started to notice a similar trend when it comes to airdrop farming. And I think there's two types of people when it comes to, if you ask someone about airdrop farming, you're probably likely going to get two extreme types of responses. On one hand, you have people like me, right? Humble farmers, people like you and I. It's like, okay, like, let's just try these new protocols out. We're getting points, like, what the hell? And who knows, like maybe it's worth something at some point, right? And maybe make a bunch of money. If not, it's okay, right? That's kind of like one camp. And then the other camp says airdrop farming is ruining crypto. Like we started with liquidity mining, now we're doing points. Farmers are getting farmed. Farmers are assholes, right? We kind of have like the anti airdrop farming crowd, and they primarily tend to be ETH maxis and VCs, and I'll talk about that later as well. And the mid-curve airdrop fallacy, which I'll go over later, is just a mental hurdle that people have that just prevent them from just picking up free money on the floor. And when I say free money, I'm not saying like we've unlocked, or crypto has unlocked like $1 million like infinite money printer glitch, or like that's not what I'm trying to say, right? It's more the idea of, instead of like just holding capital on mainnet Ether or like L2s, you can probably just farm more capital efficiently elsewhere, because these protocols don't have tokens. Lots of things don't have tokens, so you can like just stake USDC, Ether into some of these protocols, earn let's say 5 to 20% like in native yield, and then at some point you'll get a token. Why aren't people doing that, right? It feels like a no-brainer. So let's dive into this thread, and let's talk about, I guess, my analysis on the airdrop farming meta and why we're here in the first place. And everyone's talking about farming, right? Other YouTube channels. If you just go look at, if you go to crypto YouTube and look up, like how to make money in crypto, chances are people are showing XRP, Cardano, and airdrop farming, right? That's kind of like the meta of crypto YouTube. Like how can you blame those people, right? XRP people, right? They click those videos, they get like ad revenue. Cardano people, right? They get ad revenue. And then airdrop farmer like YouTube videos, right? We get a bunch of clicks. I don't run ads, but I do enjoy the clicks, right? I'm not gonna lie. Like instead of paying $50 gas fees to swap assets on Ethereum mainnet, people literally turn $50 into $10,000 by staking SOL with Geo. One of my analysts that worked for me, he staked $80 with a Solana in one wallet and got like $13,000. Like I was in disbelief. I was so upset. I was like, how did I miss this thing? And I've been talking about, this is this is like the Trojan horse for crypto adoption, because during the bear market, there's really no reason for retail to install MetaMask, download the Phantom wallet. There's no reason to go on chain unless you want to put on meme coins. And people love meme coins, but we all understand that meme coins are negative sum games, and it's typically like the insiders and the influencers and like whoever got in first, they make the most of the money. So it's negative sum, it's PvP, and lots of people are kind of turned off by that. But when it comes to airdrop farming, like we literally have people turning a little bit of money into a lot of money. And it's less PvP because, we're not these airdrop farmers, we're not really like buying tokens, like pumping it and then like dumping it as soon as we like talk about it, right? And like we saw this example with like Satoshi VM recently, where a bunch of, crypto YouTube influencers got an allocation and dumped on their followers. And, now there's like a whole drama around it. Like I have no idea what the hell is going on, to be honest. But if you think about it, right? No reason to go on chain during the bear market, but now people are actually starting to make money. So now there's actually reasons to at least, let's try downloading the Phantom wallet. Let's try downloading the Kepler wallet. The promise or the hopes, right? The hopes and dreams of making a lot of money entices people to come on chain. That is a Trojan horse for retail adoption. Personally, like that's my obvious thought, or that's like my first thought. It's not guaranteed, right, that you'll turn $100 into 10K. I mean, maybe that meta has already passed, because the reason this was possible was because no one was looking at it. Now there's more people looking at it, but is it still possible to turn $100 into, like $200, right? Just by sitting in USDC, just like, airdrop farming? Yeah. And that's not sexy, but I mean, that's still really good if you think about it, right? If you can just double your money just sitting in like USDC airdrop farming in like 2 months, I mean, on paper, like that's amazing. And I think we should be celebrating this, to be honest. Right, so I think airdrop farming is actually like the Trojan horse for crypto adoption, at least this early into the cycle. Will users be sticky, right? So after all the Solana airdrops, I know there's a Jupiter airdrop happening right now. Will people stay on Solana? Only time will tell. I don't have a clear view. I think people will stay, but that's like my opinion, right? And like the market doesn't really care about my opinion. And like I mentioned, it's more PVE, smaller fish now finally have a way of reasonably, 10xing their portfolios without having to, gamble with leverage, meme coins. I mean, you can argue that people are taking on excessive risk by, deploying cash into I guess untested smart contracts. But I mean, that's the reason we go on chain, right? So we can like test and prod, as I like to say. So I'm not really sure why people are so upset with airdrop farmers, and I'm not really trying to single out this person here, but in the past couple of weeks, past couple of months, it's like one big airdrop happens, and then we have hundreds and bunch of people say, oh, airdrop farming was cool, but now it's dead, right? Now it's super diluted. I'm not going to airdrop farm anymore because it's super diluted. And I've noticed that a lot of these posts get a lot of engagement, right? And I think tracking sentiment and engagement, and I guess figuring out like psychological barriers people have, I think is somewhat important, because the point of farming is, I mean, if you're, I guess, exploring a unexplored path, I suppose, there's a lot of, I guess, potential on the upside to make money because no one else is doing it, right? I mean, I'm farming things that no one else is like farming, so if the token does end up worth being something, then it's like, okay, like cool. If not, then it's opportunity cost, right? We all understand the risks. I think a lot of people, they have this condescending view of airdrop farmers where people are spinning up like millions of wallets with like $1 each, and they're just like depositing into all these. I mean, I'm sure like there's a few people doing that, but I think most airdrop farmers, we just have like a few wallets. We're just like trying stuff out, and we're actually trying to have fun again. Like, why are like all these like VCs so upset? I really don't understand. So I've noticed that there's two population types on crypto Twitter. There's airdrop farmers, right? Just farming, enjoying ourselves, and we make some money and we continue to farm, right? We're not. I mean, maybe I sometimes, am controversial on the timeline because I say some stuff, but like most farmers, like we're all humble, right? We're all trying to make it out here. Then we have a second cohort complaining about it. How it's no longer like worth farming. I'm sure you've seen this everywhere. It's like, okay, like airdrop farming is dead. It's so dumb. Points are dumb. Of course, only one of these groups can be right. Like at some point, airdrop farmers, at some point, airdrop farms will be diluted. But the question is when. And this is when I will introduce the mid-curve airdrop fallacy. And it's this psychological barrier and the block that people have that prevent people from taking action. That force them on the path of inaction, which makes these airdrops not that diluted. So this is the mid-curve airdrop fallacy. There are far more people that complain about airdrop farmers than there are airdrop farmers. As a result, people end up psyopsing themselves into not farming, which makes the airdrop, like the average airdrops, more lucrative, and it prolongs the airdrop meta. Okay, I am not saying that these airdrops are like not being diluted, right? If you look at the amount of Phantom wallet downloads, I mean, it literally surpassed Coinbase. So clearly, there's a bunch of people onboarding Solana. And if you look at this, right, I mean, how can you not be bullish Solana if you look at this, right? There's more people downloading Phantom than Coinbase. People might say, oh, this is unsustainable. But I mean, look, what the hell is this, right? I mean, this is like pretty nuts. So obviously, it's being more diluted. And the other airdrop farming, right, is like Celestia. And of course, right, following like these airdrop announcements and the claims, more and more people are staking Celestia. So I'd be factually wrong if I said that airdrops are not being diluted. But then I ask myself, how do you even define airdrop dilution? Right? If we stake, let's say, I mean, these numbers don't really matter, right? It's more like this idea. If we stake X dollars of Celestia and receive some airdrop, was it diluted, right? If you look at this, it's like, oh my God, it's not diluted at all, right? Like, you stake Celestia, 30 months later, that's like $500. I mean, that annualizes to like a 400% APR. Like, oh my God, like that's crazy, right? But I mean, it might not seem like it was diluted, but it could have been, because maybe it was a $1,000 airdrop if it weren't for those new stakers. Same goes for all the airdrops in the Solana ecosystem. The big Jito airdrop happened, and everyone was like, okay, like it's not worth farming anymore. Why is that? People should just continue to farm until it makes like no sense to do so, right? And I'll also introduce this concept from behavioral psychology, and when I say like, I'm not trying to talk down on like the non-farmers. There's many reasons to not farm. I'm a mid-curve, right? I'm a struggling mid-curve. I go to mid-curves anonymous every single week, and I'm constantly trying to get out of the mid-curve. So when I notice mid-curve behavior amongst other market participants, I will call it out, because I'm a subject expert. I'm an expert on the subject matter, right? I'm a mid-curve, so when I see other people mid-curving, I'm like, okay, like let me try to help those people out, because I'm still trying to get out. And I'll introduce this concept of cognitive dissonance. If you took some psych classes, you know what this is. But cognitive dissonance is defined as the mental discomfort that people experience when they simultaneously hold two contrarian beliefs or ideas in their head. And whenever they feel, or whenever they experience cognitive dissonance, humans subconsciously want to get rid of that discomfort, and they will tell themselves or take some action that lead to that discomfort being alleviated. So common examples of cognitive dissonance as it relates to the markets is, here's some examples. So let's say you're up, first action, I am letting my loss run, right? Like you're bullish on a token, you buy it, but it goes down. There's cognitive dissonance because you think it's bullish, but the fact is the market price is going down. So that makes you uncomfortable. So what do you do as a result? Or like, maybe not you, but like, what does the average person do as a result? They just hold on, right? Because like they don't want to sell, because if they sell, then they're admitting to themselves that they're wrong. So the most comfortable decision is to not sell, and just hope to sell on a break even. So that's one example. And this this applies to TA as well, right? It's like, okay, I'm bullish, I bought, but it goes down. It's like, okay, it's okay because there's support lines or whatever. Let's say you buy something and the token goes up 2x, right? And people tell themselves, sell half on a 2x, right? Letting my, now I have a free position, which sounds good on paper, in theory. But the real reason people do that and say that is because, we buy something because we're bullish, it goes up, but we're really scared of round tripping our gains. So because we're scared of round tripping our gains, the subconscious mind wants to do something to alleviate that discomfort. And what's easiest to do is to just sell half on a profit, or sell half on a 2x. Of course, I mean, it depends on hindsight. Sometimes, that's a good decision. Sometimes, if a coin goes up 2x, there's probably a good reason, and maybe it keeps going higher. So, people have this bias of holding on to losers because, they don't want to, or, because they don't want to admit they're wrong, and then they sell they sell their winners because they're afraid of round tripping. And this applies to like other stuff too. Like maybe, I don't know, like number 6, I made my money today, so I'll stop, right? It's like, okay, I traded like a few coins today, I made money, I don't want to give back my profits, so I'm going to stop. If you're winning, shouldn't you continue to be trading, right? Because you might have some edge, or you might be in the flow state, but people are afraid to lose, so we're just trying to avoid pain. That's like the biggest takeaway. Cognitive dissonance is people just trying to avoid pain, because losing money, right, feels a lot worse. Like losing $1,000 feels a lot worse than making $1,000, right? Like the people are naturally risk averse, if you think about it. Like the market doesn't really care what your cost basis is. It doesn't care what my cost basis is. It doesn't matter what like, the market doesn't care, right? The market will just keep going up or keep going down depending on what the market wants to do. So, a lot of the most suboptimal decisions in the markets is because we're just trying to avoid pain and we fear something happening. And I think this is what's going on. And I've experienced this myself because I'm a mid-curve, and I have also seen this in other people. And I think people don't want to start airdrop farming because of two reasons, right? For example, for Celestia, they don't want to buy the top, right? It just feels bad. Everyone's talking about it, and it would feel so bad if someone bought the top of Celestia. It just feels bad, right? I mean, I'm not even sure what the price of TIA is right now, but I mean, it's up only, right? I literally faded this entire run up. I literally missed the airdrop claim. I missed the entire run up, and then I bought here because I'm like, okay, I'm gonna buy the top. I don't care. I just need to get this going. So people are afraid of buying the top. Who knows? Maybe this is like a lower high. Maybe it goes down. Who knows? I mean, I have no idea. Okay, I'm a mid curve. I'm wearing a farmer hat, holding a rake. I'm not capable of predicting the future. Because people don't want to buy the top of Celestia, they don't do it. But maybe the optimal decision is to just allocate, let's say 1% of your portfolio, right? I mean, what's the downside? What's the upside? It makes sense. Point two, people don't want to farm on Solana because they're overexposed to Ether. And I mean, I see this. I'm saying this because I personally face this, right? Because I'm farming on Solana, I'm farming on Celestia, but most of my assets are in the Ethereum ecosystem. And if I, sell some of my ETH or some of my ETH assets to farm on Solana, then I'm basically admitting to myself that maybe ETH doesn't really have a big moat as people think. And maybe I was wrong on the ETH thesis. Not in the sense that ETH is not going to go up, right? I think ETH is going to do well, but I think that, people are, I guess, mispricing ETH relative, the valuation of ETH relative to other L1 assets, potentially. There's always that cognitive biases, and people saying airdrops are diluted is just something people say so that they can justify not doing it, right? But in fact, people are not doing it because they fear buying the top of TIA. They fear, buying the top of Solana, and admitting that maybe the Solana thesis makes sense, and that their previous bias of FTX and SBF, right, and direct ties with Solana, maybe it's not that big a deal as people thought. It's more of a cognitive bias. People want to avoid pain. People fear making mistakes, so they fear, and TIA is going up, Solana is going up. So obviously, right, if you faded it, then on paper, right, at the current state of the market, people that faded it were technically wrong. So if there are two conflicting beliefs, then it makes people uncomfortable, and then they just don't do anything. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. And so let's kind of wrap things up. So where do I think the meta is? It's interesting because when it comes to these airdrops, it's somewhat crazy, right? Because we had the Manta airdrop, and it's sitting at $3 billion FDV. Alt airdrop, $3.6 billion FDV. Jito, $2 billion FDV. And then there's also, Dimension, $3.9 billion FDV. I don't even know where Jupiter is. Jupiter, okay, at the time of recording, 73 cents, $7.3 billion FDV. If you think about it, crypto did not create some infinite money printer, right? We can't just drop new tokens, launch it at 2 billion, 3 billion FDV, and just make everyone rich. There is money, right? All the money has to be coming from somewhere. Maybe people are selling Ether, right, to buy these things, and maybe people are selling Solana to buy. Whatever it is, the money has to come from somewhere. If we keep launching $2-3 billion valuation tokens, at some point, right, there's not going to be enough money to support everything, and then things should start to come down, and maybe we'll see some divergence of winners and losers. I think that's the base case. So that's one risk, right? But I'm not even suggesting people buy these things, right? I'm just saying, if you're gonna buy something, maybe 1% of the portfolio, that's fine. And you can farm on Solana, right? You can go on Drift. These vaults are filled, but I was talking about how I'm gonna take my USDC and park it here, earning 80% APY and farming Drift points. You know, like they raised like $24 million. Surely, you know, the token's gonna be worth something. You know, Jupiter, right? I mean, the DCA feature is pretty cool. And you know, if you go to JLP on Jupiter Perps, I mean, it's paying crazy amounts, right? 100% APR. I mean, like, why not do this, right? I'm not even saying people should just like ape into like all these tokens. I'm just saying, let's take some part of your portfolio and just like airdrop farm. It's not that hard, right? At least try it out, right? Um, like 1% into TIA, 1%. I mean, I'm not, like, you know, like not financial advice. I'm holding a plastic rake in my hand, right? Like why not bridge and see what the hype's about, right? Like what's like a better way to learn about Solana? Like reading about it from ETHMaxi's point of view, or like just actually like using the applications, right? Like you'll learn a lot more by using these things than just like reading random people's thoughts on the internet. And I don't think like what I'm saying is like that absurd. I think most people will agree. But like I mentioned, right, the mid-curve airdrop fallacy. You know, people would rather, you know, complain about it than to like act on this type of information. And you know, most people in reality, they're too lazy to download a new wallet and educate themselves about a new ecosystem. I'm still trying to like learn about Solana, Sui, Aptos. I have my preconceived biases around, let's say, Sui, right? For example, where I don't know where Sui is, right here, right? Like I thought Sui was a scam, right? Not gonna lie, but it's going up, right? This is cognitive dissonance. I'm like, okay, well, wait, is it not? Is it not a scam? Like, wait. Why is it going up? Right, this is cognitive dissonance, and the rational thing for me to do is like try to chain out, but you know, the biased part of me is like, well, like I don't want to, you know, go to a VC chain, right? And that's not really rational. That's kind of like the, you know, the thing I'm talking about. So yeah, it's kind of similar to, you know, this meme that StatStart has posted, where, you know, if you enter the first cycle, you have no biases, so you just like ape whatever makes sense, and you know, some first cyclers are here, right, and they're just airdrop farming, right? There's like full degen. Third cyclers, right? They don't have any biases, right? They just think objectively at the markets, and if there's a way to make money, or if there's a way to set up a portfolio and find asymmetric risk return bets, then they're gonna do it. And the second cyclers, like people like myself, we got burned, or we made a bunch of money in the bull market, we lost a bunch of money in the bear market, and now we have some PTSD. You know, like now we just like sit on ETH and like, you know, farm stables on like Optimism or something, like Arbitrum or something, and we see all the people farming airdrops on Solana and Celestia, and we're like, you know, the second cyclers are like, yeah, like that's a scam, right? That's a scam. But that's kind of the entire point, right? Going back to the top here, it's kind of the entire point, where, you know, for cyclers, it's like, oh yeah, like people seem to be making a bunch of money on Solana, let's farm it, right? And the right cyclers, it's like, wow, like no one's going to Solana, like let's farm it. And then like the mid curvers are like, okay, like for sure, right? For sure, airdrops have to be diluted now, right? There's no way that this can sustain. But the correct answer is that it's going to continue to sustain until it doesn't. And I have no idea how long it's going to last, but I think it's going to last a lot longer than people currently think. And you know, you also have to think about this scenario, like what if airdrop farming is the new meta, the cycle, right? Like I think people just think that it's happening now, but it's gonna die off in like a few weeks or a few months. I think that's what people think. But like, what if this is literally the meta for the next 12 months, right? Like, are people accounting for that scenario? Probably not. So, you know, you probably have to look at both sides of the equation, where, okay, like on one side, okay, it's like, you know, airdrop farmers, they are kind of annoying in the sense that, like they're like farming stuff, right? And they're dumping your tokens or whatever. But on the other hand, it's also, you know, good, right? It's also good, because it incentivizes new entrants, or it creates that inertia, right? It forces people to be like, okay, like if I want to make money, I can't just buy Solana on a centralized exchange. I have to download the Phantom wallet. I have to go to Solana, use these applications, and then maybe I can make some money, right? That's a big difference, and it actually brings people on chain. And you know, like once people download the Phantom wallet, like why won't they download the MetaMask wallet, right? If someone makes a bunch of money on Solana, at some point, right, people will buy Ether, right? So, you know, the ETH maxis should be happy, right? Because at some point, all the wealth is gonna, you know, eventually be good for everyone's bags, right? It's similar to how, you know, meme coins get like, I don't know, like Doge got everyone to like, I mean, maybe not Doge is like, Doge is probably not a good example. Like maybe like, last cycle, right? I got a lot of people into yield farming on Polygon because it was like crazy. And now people will watch my videos and now they stayed. And similarly, right? Like who knows, like maybe airdrop farmers tried the chain for the first time and now they're like, oh, this is so fun, right? Like, oh, it's kind of cool. Ooh, like that, staking is kind of cool, right? Lending, dexes, LPing, staking, woo, very cool. And like, like it's Trojan horse for crypto adoption, right? That's my thoughts. So hopefully you guys enjoy the content. I'm gonna wrap it up here. Make sure to check out the premium Discord. Prices will be going up tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern. And I'm not gonna lower prices after that. So or give discount codes. So make sure to check that out. And I'll talk to you guys later. And have fun farming out there. Farmers rejoice, right?